Hello, folks, and welcome to the channel. Me
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
Ruben just watched the first two episodes of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and
The
we are going to
series.
the series, and we're going to discuss it right now. So, just to start off, I want to say that I'm not a big Lord of the Ring or the Lord of the Rings nerd. Haven't read the books. I know people who read The Hobbit and all three books by J.J. Was it J.R.R. Tolkien?
hmm
And I saw Return of the King in theaters. Didn't see Fellowship, uh, but when I saw Two Towers, which was the first one I ever watched from Lord of the Rings, I went
Okay, so you
back
saw
and
them
watched
all.
Fellowship. Then I went to see Return of the King. Enjoyed it. Saw all three Hobbit movies in theaters. Two of the last ones, Desolation of Smaug and Battle of the Five Armies, I saw in the ultra high frame rate,
Oh, right, like
which
120
I actually
something.
I don't mind. People are like, "Why would you want to watch a movie like this?" I'm like, "It looks smoother on the big screen. It's just you can see everything much clearer on a big screen." It's people confuse it with motion smoothing on like a TV. Not the same thing.
Right, right, right.
Because when things move by fast with motion smoothing, you get like this digital blur that looks
No, this
awful.
is moving more like real life.
Yeah, it's like I wish I could have saw like Gemini Man that same way, but it wasn't available. So that's my end of the fandom. What's your experience with? Oh yeah, and the animated movie I saw too, which I liked. Didn't see
Right.
that weird Return of the King one that had nothing to do with the other animated one. But yeah, what was your experience with Lord of the Rings?
I definitely saw the animated movie when I was young, but really my connection with Lord of the Rings is more through Dungeons and Dragons because Dungeons and Dragons is just effectively Lord of the Rings, the game. Because I was never a huge fan of the books or anything, I never really read the books. I tried to read them, but I just didn't get into them. I did watch the three movies, the three original Peter Jackson movies in theaters, and then I watched them all over again on DVD with the extended cut and all that stuff. And then recently, I was kind of in the mood for a lot of for some medieval fantasy, and I tried to watch a few things that I'm not going to talk about that were not very good. But eventually, I actually recently rewatched the original Peter Jackson movies. Funny enough, I've never watched the Hobbit movies, but I'm a
Yeah,
huge fan of the Peter Jackson movies. I love Dungeons and Dragons; it's my favorite game on the planet. So I I love Lord of the Rings kind of by proxy because of that. So when I watch Lord of the Rings things, I enjoy them because it's basically Dungeons and Dragons to me. you know, even though I know Lord of the Rings came first, don't get me twisted out there. So that's kind of my thing. I'm not a huge like Lord of the Rings guy, but I love kind of the lore and the world of it.
I see. Well, I when I experienced Lord of the Rings, I felt like a lot of things were inspired by it. Because I didn't know anything before about the books or anything before the movies, and then I found out they were like decades old. This show, The Rings of Power, takes place way before the events of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, but it has two characters from those movies,
Right.
though they're not the movie, the Peter Jackson movies, and this show are not connected. This is a reinterpretation of the Tolkien world with a lot of new things in there. We start with the character of Galadriel, who in the Peter Jackson movies was a character played by Kate Blanchett, and her friend Elrond, who was played by Hugo Weaving. In I only found this out like a day ago.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't. I didn't think.
Well,
I
I
didn't think.
laughed because of Elron because it always makes me think of L. Ron Hubbard,
Yeah,
and
Elrond.
so
Yeah.
I just can't help it. It's just like instantly.
So yeah, I suppose you can kind of look at this as a prequel to those movies if you want. but it really isn't going to strictly adhere to. I think legally
Right.
they can't. Like it's not.
Right, because Amazon paid for the licensing, but only for a very specific sort of time frame of Lord of the Rings. It's so crazy how expensive this show is. Like when you
Yeah.
factor in the licensing, it's like Jesus Christ.
Well, we get the backstory with her. Her brother was killed by Sauron, right? And
Right.
Sauron left a mark on him that if people look at, it's kind of like in the Lord of the Rings, seeing the eye of Sauron or something. So she's been on a mission for over a century or centuries,
Centuries, right? Yeah.
looking for him, and with no success. And it gets to a point where the elves, who are like dispatched, the soldiers are dispatched to protect the hobbits, I guess, and other people, like the realm of man. And forgive me because I'm not like deep into the lore on this. I'm discovering
Right.
all of this
And
just from this first two
we
episodes,
just
right?
watched this too. So
So there's a lot of setup and world building that they have to do. And I think they're
right.
successful in that because at first, yes, it's slow. It's like a slow burn at first. I understand how people say the first episode drags a bit. I think all of it's very
I
necessary.
don't know, but when I mean I hate that these two shows are going to be inevitably compared forever, but because they came out at the same time. But House of the Dragon,
House of the
like when I
Dragon.
compare the first episode of that to the first episode of this was so much more dynamic in just the narrative. And I'm not talking about visually because I know these people spent a bajillion dollars on this show, but like just from a narrative point of view, like it's clear. There's clear goals for characters, clear motivations. There's a lot of different dynamic parts of the story happening at once. Um, so like it's slow, but like compared to that House of the Dragon, it's Fast and the Furious, you know, because it's just so much more going on
Sorry,
and
I had to
colors. It's
close
so
the window.
nice to see shows with colors.
Yeah, it's everything's very crisp and clear. The visual effects
Hmm.
are just top notch. It's I wasn't that into the very beginning when she's hunting Sauron and her men are fed up and they leave her and but the elf army is dispatched now. The time for peace, if time of war is over, and I guess they all have to get on a ship and go and die or
I
go
guess
to
the
their
elves
heaven.
sort of patrol the lands
Yeah,
until this time of peace. So that's why they're all over the place.
and of course they leave at just the right time because the orcs are up to some shit and they're digging for some reason. I don't quite know why. Do you know why?
Uh, well, I don't know. Maybe to gain and use the lava energy, like to create machines and stuff. Because orcs kind of create not machines like steampunk, but like orcs use more mining and stuff. They're very anti-nature sort of representation. So it'd be
Yeah.
cool to see what a hardcore Lord of the Rings fan thinks of the show. It'd be interesting to see what the reaction from them will be.
So I'm guessing at some point in the show they have to face Sauron's army again, which was the opening of Fellowship, right?
Right, that's where I'm a little confused because from the little I understand of the lore, like the Fellowship begins with them talking about the rings being created, then being distributed, but then unknowingly one extra ring was created, which could control all the other rings. That was the ring Sauron had. Then the dude cut off Sauron's hand with the sword that's broken, which reminds me of the sword the kid keeps messing with. So I'm like, when is this taking place now? Because with the little bit I know of the lore, I'm a little bit confused on that end. Because it seems like if I don't know, it feels like the hand cutting thing happened already, but it can't be possible because the rings aren't forged yet.
No,
So I'm
I think it's a different battle altogether.
yeah, so I think I think you're right. I think it's just a different thing altogether.
But at some point in the show, I guess they're gonna have to make the rings. It's called the Rings of Power. So would that be maybe second season, or would that be like the end of the series? Like the climax of it is that
Right.
battle.
Well, I think the end of the season is probably going to be like this guy actually building the forge to make them.
Okay.
Because now he's working with the dwarves to start working on that thing that they wanted to build to make the rings, right?
Uh, I really like the Harfoots or the Hobbits. They don't say Hobbit. They
Precursors,
say
yeah, they're precursors to hobbits.
yeah. I find everybody's very well cast. Like there's a good thing about the casting here because uh, high or short kind of stubby people. It's it's the same thing with the dwarfs. It's like they have the prosthetic nose. They have a lot of hair, like so they have the beards that go like right down to their feet, and
Right.
there's a distinct
Everything
look
helps to
between.
make them look short.
Yeah, now if you didn't know like the different species in the show, you would get it from these first two episodes. Like,
Right.
oh, these guys over here. These are the men are just like you and me humans type of thing, and then there's dwarfs and there's Harfoots and elves and
And they sort of gave each one an accent. Like the Herefords were kind of Irishy, the dwarves
Irishy.
were
Yeah.
kind of Scottishy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, all right, I
Elves are
get it.
British.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's good. That's a good way to differentiate them, because it is a lot. I mean, Lord of the Rings is huge. It's massive
It seems like
world.
the realm of men or whatever. The humans. I guess kind of have like Northern English accents. Kind of like in Game of Thrones, like King and an
Right.
all. So I don't know. Maybe I haven't, but I do like Elrond and uh, uh, Galadriel is growing on me. I'm kind
I
of
like her a lot. Yeah.
wondering about her character and like uh, her journey where she's gonna go. But I really like Nori and Poppy. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, they're
I'll call
fun.
them hobbits. I'll just call them
Yeah,
hobbits.
yeah.
And in the first episode, there's like a comet or something, and it's very clearly Gandalf. I mean, it
I,
doesn't say the credits say the stranger.
right, right. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, it looks like Gandalf. I mean, it's an old dude with a great beard,
It really does seem like it's Gandalf.
and he's
It,
doing
and,
that weird kind of spooky stuff that Gandalf would do sometimes with the
oh,
environment.
like in Fellowship, where he's like, "I'm not trying to rob you," and the
It's
room
like,
goes dark. He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"I'm trying to help you," and he's calm, and then everything goes back to normal. But yeah, he clearly has something's happened. Something terrible has happened to him. He has this weird amnesia. He can't speak. I don't know if he can't speak their language per se, or he just can't speak at all, really.
Right, he's a little bit mad.
And I like how Nori's like befriending, like protecting him, and it's almost like it's almost like Harry and the Hendersons. You have this like giant thing that's like you're trying to
Can't
you're
speak.
trying to
Yeah.
manage. But yeah, also the effect between like the size difference. Elves and men are the same size, and dwarfs and hobbits are about the same size.
Right,
Maybe
right.
hobbits are even smaller. I don't know.
Hobbits are, well, I mean, according to D&D, are a little bit smaller than dwarves, but and then
But if they
also
had a hobbit and a dwarf in the same scene, would they have to really use the effect? Maybe not, right?
probably not. You could probably cheat it easily.
Uh,
But they do. I mean, man, visually, I just cannot. The show looks incredible from start to finish. Like every frame, it looks
every
like
shot.
fantasy paintings come to life. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Um, in the second episode, you're in. Elrond goes and sees his dwarf friend. Uh, God, what's his name?
Yeah,
I forget his name, but you meet him and his
Redbeard. I call
wife,
him Redbeard.
Redbeard. Yeah, and you see that his wife even has like a bit of facial hair and stuff, just to show
Yeah, well,
like
dwarven women
dwarves.
are supposed to have beards too. I think that was one of the complaints of.
Oh, that she didn't have a full beard.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, really? I got Amazon Prime is great because when you look at the episode and you just click on it, it tells you who's in the scene. So Daniel Wayman plays the Stranger or Gandalf. Um, Megan Richards plays Poppy, and Markella Kavanaugh plays Eleanor or Nori.
Yeah, Michaela Cavanaugh.
Who's the dwarf? Oh yeah, the orc scene was pretty good toward the end. It's kind of intense. It was like a horror movie element.
Oh yeah, I mean it was
Prince
what?
Durin, Prince Durin, the fourth, and his wife is Princess Diza, played by Sophia Namvet. And I like that. That was the comic relief in the episode. You know, their relationship, and they're
Yeah,
so
yeah.
warm and inviting, and they have a beautiful home. You're looking at every shot in this, and you can just like admire all the detail in the sets,
No, it's
the
insane.
costume
It's
design.
insane.
Like the money is there. I mean, obviously, but I'm
No,
sure
yeah, it's
people.
insane. Like every day, they were like, dude, and like the richness of the sets. Like there was that one moment where I can't remember the name of the characters, but there was the like the sort of leader guy of the elves, and then the guy who's going to build the forge and all that stuff with dwarves. They're talking like on just some set with like a couple pillars and grass, and I'm just like watching this scene, and I'm like, look at the work they put into just to build this little set for these two dudes to talk for like 3 minutes. I'm like, look at all the freaking detail on this thing. It's insane. It's insane. But I mean, they I like when you can see the money for sure.
And the VFX, uh, especially with Galadriel's, you know, she abandons the heaven ship. She jumps the heaven ship. She doesn't want to go to elf heaven or wherever that
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
and she's just swimming. And I'm thinking, well, okay. I mean, I guess you're screwed now because you're in the middle of nowhere. Like
yeah.
it has to be like a Deus Ex Machina situation where somebody's got to come along, and unless you somehow reach land or something. Uh, but then she finds the people on the raft, and that scene with the water worms or whatever they are, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. When she's doing that whole shot where she's swimming, like sort of, and it's really interesting because you can see how they did it, but it still looks so good. Like when she's swimming at the camera, and the things are happening behind her. Super
Yeah.
simple shot,
Yes.
you
Yes, and the
know.
water's hitting the
And
camera and stuff.
yeah, it's
It's
just super simple shot, but just so well done that I was
it,
like, I can't, like, wow, just
very
amazing,
well done. Yeah.
And then the interaction with the water splashing up back on her and stuff. Yeah, it's just so well done.
And then again, she's like, "Okay, well, you screwed again now. You figure they're all dead." Then
Now
this
you're gonna
guy
die with
saves
some
her.
people,
Yeah, this guy comes. What's his name? Halbrand,
right?
played by Charlie Vickers. He comes and saves her, and then they have this great visual effects sequence where they're in a storm, and clearly, in your head they're not really in a storm, but man, does it ever
Right.
look good? But on top of that, she goes overboard, gets like dragged down, and this guy saves her again.
Despite,
And I know this is a stupid thought, but the thought occurred to me. I'm like, for anybody who's like saying like, woken, crying about that aspect of it. You had a man save a woman twice, so shut the fuck up.
yeah, I mean, yeah, what the hell, dude? What do you want?
But the fact that I even thought that just says
Hmm.
something, right? About
No, our day and age, right?
about just like everybody's anticipation, or I guess in some cases vitriol toward the show before it was ever out. And I would encourage people, if you heard good or bad, just give it a chance. Watch it yourself. You may or may not like it. Like I said, I can understand how the first episode may leave people's heads scratched because, like me, I don't really know a lot about the world, so I'm trying
Right,
to pay attention as much as I can to learn. So in that sense, it's not really boring for me. It's just I'm after the first episode, I'm like, all right, let's expand a bit more, but I want more action. I want more intensity. And that whole thing with the kid finding the sword and like looking into it and stuff, and then he bleeds, and then
the
it
blood
like
crawls up into the sword.
yeah,
Oh,
and his mother discovers, there's a problem with the orcs, tries to warn everybody, nobody, you know. But that whole thing with the orc, with the okay, I gotta. There's another elf there too, who's
Well,
probably the kid's father. I
yeah,
suspect because
for
it seems
sure.
like they had a relationship for a
For
long time.
sure. Which in D&D terms would make the kid a half elf.
But that's you don't. That's they have the hair over the kid's ears, and it's like at
Right.
some point it's gonna be like, wait, your ears are kind of pointy. I didn't know that was a thing in this world that there could be half elf dwarf or half human elf or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's an invention of the show or if that was ever in the books or what.
Yeah, I don't know. I know in D&D it's a thing. Um, sort of in D&D there's also half orcs. Um, which I don't know if that came from Lord of the Rings either.
Arondir is the elf who's in the tunnels, and that part, something about like people in very tight spaces like that. I'm not that claustrophobic, but I get like nervous when I see people. And then when he's trying to get away from the elf, and he gets into that really tight spot, and like the rats are crawling over him, that was kind of intense. But when the orc comes up from the floorboards and the mother, instead of running away, decides to hide, and I'm like, that was pretty intense. And that battle was intense too.
It
Like
looked
they didn't easily defeat him. It took some doing, right? It wasn't just
no,
like
yeah, it was very, very cool. It was very good interaction between the tag teaming on them, him getting him on the rope. First she stabs him with the thing and he gets stuck, and then he gets him with the rope around the neck, and like it was really
it
well done,
was
really well
it was
done.
staged very well. And uh, it's like PG TV, really. It's 13 plus. It says on Amazon Prime in Canada.
Mhm.
But there's like some impalement. There's some gore, but they do it in a way where yeah, it is kind of family friendly, but
Yeah, I mean, I
it's not
can't really.
sanitized. It's like the, when she chops the orc's head off, you don't see the head coming off. You just see the swing, and then she puts the head. It's like how they did it in Star Wars.
Right,
I
it's
think
not
it's the
game.
Last
It's
Jedi
not.
where Kylo Ren just plops the head down. It's like, wow, this is kind of hardcore for.
It's kind of a PG-13, but almost like a PG-11.
Hmm, yeah,
But it's yeah, because it's not. There's no like schlong swinging around and butt cheeks
it's not
clapping
House
and
of
stuff.
Dragons, Game of Thrones
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
stuff,
it's like Game of
where all of a
Thrones.
sudden you're gonna get a close up of somebody's like scrotum or something.
Yeah,
So in that sense, I like that. Like it is made. You can tell it's made for
it
the
rides a good
broadest
line.
possible audience because you think about it, like all that money, you want a lot of eyes on it, and you want a lot of parents to look at it and say, oh, "Okay, I'll let my
You want to sell toys?
kid watch this." Yeah,
I would imagine.
figures and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I mean, there's a
the
lot. It looked
the Balrog, I think, was gonna. Is that what it's called? That big demon, devil
the
looking thing
Gandalf
where he says,
fights.
you shall
Yeah,
not
yeah.
pass."
Balrog.
Balrog. That's gonna be in the show at some point. I can't wait to see that. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's gonna look incredible because I mean, there's
you know
two
what? They
seasons
set
of
up
this
so
coming,
many
right?
things. You have so many characters in these first two episodes, so many locations, and it's not jarring.
No,
I
no, they
think the
do.
first episode does set you up for like it eases you into it, like where it doesn't like throw a lot at you, and then the second episode is like, yeah, let's start to have a little bit of fun.
But
Let's
they also
have
do a
more
really
humor
good
and action.
job of like building a rhythm between the different stories, and kind
Yeah,
of
and they have that overlay of the map too that gives you a sense of
yeah,
kind
that
of
was
where things
very
are.
as a D&D fan, that was very that was very nerdy for me. I was like, oh my god, I love that.
So my favorite thing is the hobbits, Nori, and the stranger Gandalf. Obviously, I think it's Gandalf. Everybody, I'd heard he was in it, and I'm like, how? I never heard that. Like, I never knew an actor was cat. Like, I never knew anything. So then it was like the guy comes down the comet, and he's like some bearded dude. I'm like, who else could it be?
It's so wild. I want to know how the fuck. He's in the comet. Like, what the hell is that all about?
And there's a sufficient amount of mystery they set up. Like, I don't know what's really going on in this world. I know Sauron bad, gotta get him. Orcs are showing up, stirring up shit. This is all I know at this point. And as a regular kind of outsider, who's, yes, I'm familiar with the movies, but I don't know the lore
Right,
like,
right. You
say,
have
you or Starfleet Boy may know, or
no. I
some other
mean,
people.
even I don't even consider myself like I think I'm pretty good only because of the D&D connection. I kind of know a little bit more, but even then, I'm really only a fan of the three Peter Jackson movies.
Are there dragons? Yes, there are dragons in this world, aren't there?
Hmm. Yeah,
I
there's
can't remember
Schmaug,
seeing one in Lord of the Rings.
Smaug,
Oh, Smaug! Jesus Christ!
Smaug.
There was a whole movie. It was
Yeah,
called
hello, there's
Desolation
a
of
whole
Smaug.
Smaug.
That was the only dragon
Uh,
I think I saw in that. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
um,
fascinated by this world. I wanna continue to watch it. It could go south. It could continue to get better, but I think the second episode was better than the first, and hope that
right,
pattern
and I feel
continues.
like this again. Maybe it's just me, but I keep comparing the two shows because just the quality, the difference in what I perceive as this looks like it's going somewhere and has a point, whereas this looks like it's just a cash grab, and they're just like, who cares? Let's just make more Game of Thrones and people watch. Whereas this feels like it's going somewhere and it's setting up a lot of different. We're already getting the bad story arc, right? Sauron's got to come back somehow with his orcs. Whether that's the cliffhanger at the end or whatever. Then you got the mystery with the old man in the comet, which, as far as we know, is Gandalf. You know, then you got like the kind of Luke Skywalker farm boy story with Nori. Like she wants to adventure and go off like she's Frodo.
Mm,
Basically.
yeah.
So, like, it's doing a great job of being familiar but new, in my opinion, which I really like. And obviously, it's new because it's not really any based on any lore as far as we know. So I enjoyed it. I couldn't really find a lot of things I didn't like about it. A little bit slow, but like again, since Game of Thrones was dreadfully slow to me, this show was like, oh, okay. There's all these different characters and it's bouncing around and it's telling me all these different stories, and I'm like, this. Yeah, it's a little bit slow, but there's also so much going on. It's so dynamic, and so that's what kept me really into it. Plus, visually, just I couldn't even believe, like I told you in the chat, I feel like they just reinvented my eyes. Like I'm like, what am I seeing here? How is some of these shots like some of that
It,
one of those city
cityscapes.
shots
It was
was
very
just like
detailed,
I was just like, how is this happening right now?
and it doesn't have that CGI haze you kind of find in things where everything
Right,
kind of looks like a painting.
right,
Some of it actually looks so beautiful that it does look like a painting, but it's like photorealistic as hell.
right.
It really benefits from um, the Ultra HD 4K or whatever. So yeah, looking forward to the rest. I
I
guess
think
we
my
don't really
least
have.
favorite thing, if I had to nitpick one thing, was really the music. The music is a little off to me. Not the theme. The theme is great. I think the theme was written by the dude who made the
What
music.
you? Yeah, you're talking about the opening credits in the second episode.
Yeah, yeah. And the opening credits were cool too. It seems like it was almost. I don't know why. I feel like it's the same people that did Foundation. The opening credits to Foundation. I don't know
Oh
why
really?
I get
Yeah.
this vibe, but the music's a little off to me sometimes. Like it's not bad, but it's just like I don't know. But maybe it's that thing of like it's kind of riding the PG-13ish line, and so the music's kind of trying to follow along with that, where I would like something different. But that's really more of a nitpick because it's not like the music bothers me. It's just, oh, I wish it was something a little bit more oomph here.
Yeah, it's there, but it's not like
Right.
it's not
Sometimes it's
as
like a little bit
memorable as I
like a
guess.
little cartoonier than I'd like it to be.
When I did know one of the parts of the score I did notice when Elrond goes into the dwarf um, bar, whatever it is, or the area where they're gonna smash the rocks. They have like a coarse kind of like a vocal kind of score, like oh, that stood
Oh,
out
right,
to
when they
me.
all start like humming, or yeah, yeah, it's like cult like shit going on there.
So the second episode ends with uh, the humans knowing that the orcs are up to some shit, and they got to go and see the elves about it. And Galadriel is on the raft with the dude, and they're discovered by somebody. We don't see who it is.
Right.
Uh, you know,
I mean, he's either human or an elf, right?
yeah.
By the
So
looks of
the
it.
hook at the end leaves me wanting more. Definitely after the first one, I was like, well, yeah, I gotta watch the second one.
Well, yeah, I mean
It is an engaging series.
that's what I'm saying about like the difference in like the way like that way that first episode ends. Even if the whole episode's kind of boring or slow, it ends with a punch where you're like, oh shit, what the fuck just happened with this dude in a comet? Like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah,
And it leaves you like, okay, I'll check out the next episode. And then this episode, now you're more into it. It picks up the pace a little bit. It keeps adding the layers to all the character stories. Um, because
are there
for
10 or
some,
8 episodes in this? Do you know?
I think it's 10. Because I
Should
was
be
kind of instantly taken
$1 billion.
with Galadriel's story of like taking up this cause for her brother. I was kind of instantly like, oh, that's cool. That's very fantasy. I'm already on board with this cause of hers, and that was just the first few minutes of the show. So I was like, they just did a really good job of making, like you said, engaging is a very good word for it.
Yes, it is. It is. It is engaging. I just looked up. I'm typed in my phone how many episodes of Rings of Power, and it's like it's on airplane mode.
And a lot like I know it's a strange comparison, but a lot like
8 episodes.
oh damn, it's only 8. Well,
8 episodes.
considering other, a lot like Strange New Worlds, it brightens up. Like I think another thing with like it has a very bright, joyful look and feel to it because, like we said, it's kind of the PG-13, PG-ish feel, and I don't know, I kind of want that now. I think I just like that vibrant look, um, and it does a really
Yeah,
great job of that. I love to see sets. I love to know, wow, they might really be on like a beach, like that's amazing, or like they're actually in a mountain
they
side.
did film on location in New Zealand. I know the second season moved uh, to Europe. They're not filming in New Zealand again for whatever reason. So
Hmm.
apparently, a lot of sets had to like be redone in a different location. So you will see real locations in the second season,
Awesome. And
but
I guess now from
different
here on
spot.
out, we're getting one episode a week.
Yes. So
Okay,
6 more
for six
weeks
weeks.
of Rings of Power. So it's great. You have, for me personally, it's like, okay, I have Lower Decks. I have She Hulk. I have House of the Dragon. And I have Rings of Power. Beavis and Butthead, too. I love that. On top of other shows, September in particular is going to be a good one for me. There's a lot of stuff coming out. It's like Cobra Kai and the new Mighty Ducks
Oh,
show. It's like
Cobra Kai, I watch.
all the stuff I like.
Cobra Kai, I'm looking forward to.
But yeah, this show is clearly the sleekest looking, with the most attention to detail, and for anybody who can't really get into it, and that's not my thing. I think we'll at least acknowledge that it looks pretty. It looks nice.
I mean, yeah, you can't. You, I mean, I don't want to hear anybody say it's not. You
It
can't
looks
see
cheap or
where.
anything like
Yeah,
that.
no. I
No, yeah,
mean,
really, no.
it's mind-boggling how good it looks to me, in my opinion.
Mm.
It rivals
Somebody has a
movies.
385 megabyte copy that they got from the internet. And they're like, this doesn't look that great. So you gotta watch it in the 4Ks.
Yeah,
Do that
especially
4K,
in this
baby.
world of like volumes and AR walls and and
Yeah,
just not even just generally shooting indoors, because like I was even thinking like that scene we are saying, the storm scene. That's an old school thing. They're in some pool that make the wave machine pool with green screen backgrounds, but it looks so fucking flawless that I was like, dude, did they really leave these people stranded in the ocean?
exactly. Man, I can't wait to get my check from Amazon for shilling for this show.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
man.
clearly, if I had any sense, I
Yeah,
would hate it. But
yeah.
no,
I'm gonna get a
I'm
boob
kidding.
job actually with my money from Amazon.
You know, to be totally honest, going into it, I had to like neutralize my expectations because anytime anything comes out now, you have the two extremes.
Hmm.
It's gonna be shit, or it's gonna be the greatest thing
Right.
since sliced bread. And I'm like, I can't trust. I it's not that I don't trust critics or people's opinions. It's just I don't know. Like Dan Murrell, who I love, and I watch
Right.
his stuff, and I like a lot of his reviews. Didn't feel the same way I felt about it. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. It was kind of like back in the day with Siskel and Ebert. Most times, I would agree with Roger Ebert,
Hmm.
and I would be like, "Gene, what are you talking about?"
What are you talking about,
But
Gene?
sometimes, I think Roger was way off the mark,
Right.
and Gene got it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
usually leaned more toward Roger. I was more his sensibilities that I related to.
Yeah, I watched Dan's review too, and I mean, I disagreed with. I mean, at the time, I was kind of surprised, like, oh wow, Dan doesn't like this. How am I gonna feel about it, kind of thing. But now watching it, I understand his points. I totally understand his points. But I think to me, it's just maybe I'm also just keep comparing it to the way I felt about House of Dragons so far, and
Mm.
it's the complete opposite feeling. Like I want to see more of this. Whereas House of
I like
Dragons,
both. I like House of Dragon too. It's
I'm
just
like,
I
yeah, but like with House of Dragons, is like I don't really care if I see more. Yeah, I'll watch the next episode, but I don't really care. Like nothing's really interesting to me in that show. The characters don't interest me that much. Like Matt Smith doesn't really interest me as much in the second episode as in the first episode. So whereas this, it's like everything was kind of interesting to me to a degree.
yeah. I just hope it uh, doesn't go downhill or anything. Like I've heard arguments about like it doesn't respect Tolkien lore
Yeah, see,
or
and
it where it makes up a certain portion of the world. Are people gonna have a problem with that? I have no skin in that game,
right, that's
so
another thing.
I'm
So
taking it as like if an average you know TV movie lover just sat down and watched something that
right,
I'm vaguely familiar with. Like I said, I didn't even know Galadriel. Like I should have known the name Galadriel and Elrond because I've heard the names before. I was just for the longest time I'm like, oh, that's Kate Blanchett, and I think like a while back, Starfleet Boy and his one of his After Darks like went through all of that, like showed us the pictures of the
yeah,
cat and said this is so and so, and they played him in this, and I probably was like, phew. So
yeah.
I didn't know until a couple of days ago that there was the same characters from the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings were in it. Not connected though. So I
Yeah.
also like that it's like a fresh take. It's a fresh interpretation.
Hmm.
The orcs are slightly different. I suppose we're going to see a variation on that too. But the
Right,
mouth,
right.
when they do the close up of the mouth, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's fucking. It's gross and it's scary and it's intimidating. It's like a horror. It's like a horror movie element within in the second episode
Right, right, which is what I
that I
love
thought was
about the
pretty
show
cool. It's
so
like them
far.
taking
It's
on Jason
so,
Voorhees or something. It's
it starts off with this like kind of epic, kind of classic Lord of the Rings epic backstory of this war thing, and then it goes down to the character level and starts building back up to something epic now through the characters. I love that. Love that. That's what I love about the storytelling it's doing.
Nori's father when he twists his ankle, which is like, oh, it made me cringe. Uh, I immediately thought, oh, Gandalf's gonna help.
Well,
Like
did he
they're gonna
cause it?
discover Gandalf at some point, right? They can't keep him secret, or the stranger, I should say. He's not. They don't say he's Gandalf.
Did Gandalf accidentally cause it though? in his frustration that he couldn't communicate.
They were jumping back and forth, I think, to show
Right.
that she should have been there, but she was preoccupied, and like it,
Right, but then his
the
like
extra,
stick
she didn't.
broke and like his the leg broke. I don't know. It was interesting.
Maybe there was some kind of
Yeah,
thing
I
there. I don't
definitely
know.
like. I
I
want
think
to
it was
watch
just.
it.
I think they were just illustrating that she was supposed to be there helping, and that her absence caused.
Yeah, no, that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just wonder if he's sort of like because his emotions are kind of like dictating his power right now because he's
I want to
lunatic.
see the villagers discover him and like get to know him and stuff, and see that dynamic. And I love that whole effect of the size difference too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it
when
looks great.
Elrond was in the dwarf's house. It's funny how you don't see the kids because the kids had the thing, but they're so tiny compared to him. And when he's sitting at the table, they do a combination of straight up digital effects to do the difference because the camera's moving, and with
Right,
force perspective, you can only go so far with that. But like at the dinner table, say it's like that old Peter Jackson trick that he used where he's actually sitting very close to the camera and they're
right.
like far away, but it looks like they're only right next to him. So
The basics, man. The
on a technical
fundamentals.
level, it's very interesting to look at, and it's
Yeah.
worse for viewings, I think. But I don't want to wear myself out on the show. I'll probably watch the first two episodes before the third one.
Well, I mean, my wife. I know my wife wants to watch it, but she couldn't watch it tonight, and I was like, "Well, I gotta watch it because I want to watch it tonight. I want to be cool and watch it with everybody else." And so I know I'm gonna have to watch it again with her, and I'm actually looking forward to it. Like, I actually want to now watch it again and be like, "Oh, I missed that before, and I missed that before." Like, or be like, "Oh,
It's almost a very pretty thing to have playing in the background somewhere too, just for like
dude, it's
shits and
just."
giggles.
I mean,
It's like
just that alone.
at the video store, or they don't really do that anymore, but in the mall or something where the TVs are playing something like cool on the TV. That would be a
Like,
perfect thing to put on there.
you know that
Except
one
maybe
shot early on when the elves walk up that cliff and it does the shot where it's like coming up on the city, and we saw the still image like months ago of that same shot. And when I saw the still image months ago, I was like, "Oh, it looks nice," but it's just a still image, so like whatever, you know.
yeah.
But when I saw it now, like in motion and like the sun shining down on the city, and it was just like, whoa, just crazy levels.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I'm looking forward to more. They did a good job.
as am I. All right. Well, we're gonna leave it there. We don't want to go on too long about it, but uh, if you're interested, we can discuss the series more. Unless it starts to suck, then fuck it. I don't want to talk about it.
And screw
But
that shit.
it would be funny because episode 3 is like special effects are worse, the sets are worse. Like it's somehow went down in quality. I just want to side note before we go. It was like the third episode of She-Hulk. The CG is bad in the first two episodes, right? For some reason, it is more abysmal. Like it is shockingly bad in the third episode. But the third episode happens to be the best episode in terms
Right,
of like the
the
story
story, right?
and the comedy element of it. But Rings of Power is clearly one of those shows where none of that shit is gonna fly. None of this like shitty green screen bad effect. Like Amazon is like, we gave you this money. It had better. Every
Yeah,
frame of this had better look good. Jeff Bezos recently said
we're gonna sell
the
every
showrunners
frame of this
ignored.
show on Amazon for 9.99.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos said they ignored his notes. I'm like, good.
Oh, really?
He's like, yeah, I gave the showrunners notes and they ignored me. Like he's gonna care now because it's probably going to be one of the most watched things on television. So, I
It's
mean,
gonna be
streaming.
interesting to see what they report because no one's really gonna know the actual numbers, whatever Amazon reports. But you know,
They'll probably have reason to boast about this.
I have a
If
feeling it's gonna do pretty well. I mean,
yeah.
and I have a
All
feeling
right.
the only people who are really gonna be upset with are kind of like diehard Lord of the Rings fans or the usual suspects who bitch about everything, or
Yeah.
you know, or and the diehard lore fanatics, whatever. I can't fault them if they're lore fanatics. I'm not really a canon hound, so with anything really. So
Well, for anybody who likes it or hates it or anywhere in between, I would suggest a fan or not, give it a chance, check it out. Uh, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about this show like we have tonight. Anyway, thank you, Ruben, for joining me. And until next time, folks, live long and
live long and
prosper.
prosper.